Welcome the anointed ones. The loudest explosion is when you stop caring. And make no mistake, they heard it. Let's be brutally honest. Nothing shakes your enemies to their core quite like your indifference. Not your clapbacks, not your receipts, not even your survival, but that chilling moment when you went completely cold and they realized, wait, they're not even mad? See, here's a wild fact most people miss. The human brain is wired to crave closure. Even villains want a reaction. But you, chosen one? You pulled the plug mid-scene. You didn't just walk off the stage. You left the theater, burned the script, and opened a 5-star life somewhere else, without telling anyone. You didn't drop the mic. You threw it into another dimension. Now the same people who gossiped, plotted, and waited for you to explode are suffocating in the silence you left behind, because you didn't just rise. You ghosted their circus. And the best part? They thought ignoring them was your weakness. Turns out it was the weapon they couldn't defend against. Welcome to the video. Let's break down exactly why your lack of revenge isn't just maturity. It's domination in its highest form. Let's talk about how you're not just rising above the gossip. You're stepping over it like royalty that doesn't acknowledge peasants in the mud. And don't worry, I brought truth, depth, receipts, and a little bit of petty on the side. Let's go. Number 1. Indifference is an execution, not an escape. When a chosen one stops caring, it's not because they gave up. It's because they finally saw the full picture and chose to rise above it. Indifference isn't weakness. It's not silence. It's a full-blown execution of the old cycle. It's the final act that ends the performance, not with drama, but with total disengagement. When you stop caring, it doesn't mean they didn't hurt you. It means you refuse to keep feeding the fire they lit. You didn't walk away to be peaceful. You walked away because you were done entertaining chaos that tried to disguise itself as attention. You didn't just let go of revenge. You made a bold decision to let the consequences handle themselves. That's what people don't get. They think you're supposed to react. They think not retaliating makes you soft. But in reality, it takes a different level of inner strength to say, you're not worth the damage I'd have to do to myself just to get even. That's not passive. That's spiritual dominance. And the wild part? The moment you stopped caring, you hit them harder than revenge ever could. Because revenge at least lets them know they still matter to you. Indifference tells them they've officially lost all access. No more power. No more rent-free space in your mind. They are now background noise to your growth. You made them irrelevant by moving forward without them. No warning. No closure. Just a door slammed shut with grace and finality. That's what haunts them. Not what you said, but what you didn't say. Not how you exposed them, but how you outgrew them. You didn't seek revenge because you knew the best punishment for someone who tried to break you is watching you live like they never mattered. You didn't lose control. You took it back. And that choice, that quiet, effortless choice to care less, that's the most powerful ending they never saw coming. Number 2, revenge proves they touched you. Apathy proves they couldn't. When you care enough to get revenge, it means they still have a piece of you. Maybe just a sliver, but it's there. Your energy, your time, your mental space, it's still being offered up, even if it's in the form of retaliation. But when you genuinely stop caring, when they no longer move you emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that's when the real damage is done. Not to you, but to them, because now they're left shouting into a void that doesn't answer back. They expect the fight. They expect you to lash out, to defend yourself, to correct their lies, to match their drama with fire of your own. That's what keeps their ego fed. That's what validates their illusion of control. But when you don't react, when you don't care at all, it sends a message louder than any revenge ever could. You're no longer significant enough to even trigger me. And that realization cuts deep. It forces them to face something most people spend their whole lives avoiding. That they lost all influence over you. No power, no control, no access. Nothing. You're not angry. You're not bitter. You're just done. And that kind of exit doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with silence so sharp it echoes. Revenge is still connection, whether people admit it or not. It's still dancing with the same demons you've been trying to escape. But indifference? That's disconnection. That's spiritual unplugging. That's when you stop explaining yourself, stop proving anything, and let the truth speak through your peace. And peace is one thing they can't fake or fight. They tried to hurt you. They expected to see a reaction, tears, rage, even revenge. What they didn't prepare for was you healing, detaching, and elevating without a single ounce of effort thrown in their direction. That stings because revenge might bruise their ego, but indifference, that's where it breaks. Number 3, gossip needs your energy to live. You starved it to death. Gossip only survives if you feed it. It needs energy, attention, and constant reactions to keep going. And most people make the mistake of trying to fight it, explaining themselves, arguing with lies, defending their name to people who were never on their side to begin with. That's exactly how gossip traps you. It pulls you into its cycle and forces you to play a game you didn't even sign up for. But when you stop caring, that's when everything begins to die. You didn't need to defend yourself because you knew the truth. You didn't need to match their noise because you saw how empty it really was. Gossip can't live without fuel, and you took yours back. You refused to give it attention, and in doing so, you took away its lifeline. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's knowing the difference between reacting and reclaiming your peace. The reason they kept your name in their mouth is because your energy kept showing up, even when you weren't in the room. They were still feeding off your light, trying to twist your story into something ugly because they couldn't match your spirit. But you cut the cord. You stopped giving them something to spin, and in that silence their lies started to sound desperate. They thought ignoring them would make you look guilty. What they didn't realize is that your silence exposed them. Because the longer you stayed quiet, the more obvious it became that they were obsessed with someone who clearly wasn't paying them any mind. And that's embarrassing. They kept talking, hoping you'd break and show them they still had some kind of control. But you let the gossip burn itself out while you kept building, healing, growing. You starved the fire. You walked away and it choked on its own smoke. Not caring isn't passive. It's power. It's the kind of power that doesn't scream or prove itself. It just is. And when you moved on without reacting, you killed their little drama with more grace than any fight ever could. Number 4, you became so elevated the air is too thin for their rumors. They never expected you to evolve past the level where their words could touch you. They were so used to you being reachable, emotionally accessible, reactive, grounded, where they could poke, prod, and get a rise out of you. But then you changed. You started moving in silence, healing in private, and rising in ways they couldn't follow. And suddenly their words didn't sting anymore. Not because they stopped talking, but because you were no longer standing where the gossip had power. Their rumors need oxygen to survive, attention, drama, low-level engagement. But where you're heading, the air is different. You've gone higher. You've elevated spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You're not playing small anymore. And gossip can't survive in higher altitudes. It's like trying to light a match on a mountaintop. There's not enough oxygen to keep it burning. So their lies fall flat. Their shade gets swallowed by your light, and their assumptions collapse under the pressure of your elevation. What they don't understand is that you didn't respond because you couldn't hear them anymore. Not because you weren't aware, but because your focus shifted so far forward that looking back just didn't make sense. That's what breaks them, not the silence, but the fact that you evolved past the version of yourself they were trying to destroy. They keep trying to drag you down into conversations you've outgrown. They want you to explain, to defend, to return to a place you've already graduated from, but you're not available for that anymore. You're not reachable through the old doors. You've transcended the nonsense, and they're left gasping for relevance in a space you no longer occupy. So no, the gossip didn't stop. It just started suffocating, because the higher you went, the less room there was for anything built on lies. That's what happens when you evolve. They can't touch you, not because you're hiding, but because they stayed low while you learned how to fly. Number 5, revenge is linear. Detachment is dimensional. Revenge is simple, predictable. It keeps you locked into the same timeline as the people who wronged you. They hurt you, so you hurt them back. They throw dirt, you throw it harder. It's a back-and-forth cycle that feels powerful in the moment, but in reality, it traps you in the same emotional neighborhood where the betrayal happened. That's the thing about revenge. It keeps you connected to the pain, the people, and the version of yourself that needed to prove a point. Detachment, on the other hand, isn't just walking away. It's stepping out of the entire system. It's leaving the game completely. You don't need to outsmart, outtalk, or outfight anyone because you've realized the real flex is not needing to play at all. Detachment is dimensional, it's not reactive, it's transformative. It takes you into a space where your peace becomes your shield and your silence becomes a frequency they can't reach. When you detach, you're not saying, "I don't care what happened." You're saying, "I care too much about where I'm going to carry what happened with me." You're no longer interested in repeating lessons you've already learned. That's what elevates you. Not your ability to get even, but your ability to grow past the version of yourself that even considered it. They want you stuck in the drama, in the story, in the emotional chaos they created. That's where they feel powerful. But when you detach, you remove the battery from their illusion. You stop feeding the narrative. You don't give them your words, your attention, or your energy. And in that quiet disconnection, you take back every ounce of power they thought they had. Revenge might feel good for a moment, but detachment builds peace that lasts. It's not just healing, it's evolution. You're not avoiding the fight, you're rising above it, and that elevation isn't weakness, it's mastery. Number 6. They didn't expect you to survive without burning them back. They always expected some kind of retaliation. Not because you're vengeful by nature, but because they knew what they did to you deserved consequences. They were ready for the blowback. They braced for the day you'd finally explode, call them out, drag them, or expose their lies. In some twisted way, they welcomed that because it would have made them feel justified, like the villain they played was just responding to your fire. What they never expected was your refusal to engage at all. You survived, but not in the way they hoped. You didn't come out swinging. You didn't gather receipts or wage war. You did something far more dangerous. You healed, quietly, thoroughly, and with no desire to take them with you or even leave a scar. That's what shook them. Because survival is one thing. They knew you were strong. But rising without revenge, thriving without theatrics, that's what exposes them without a single word from you. When someone tries to destroy you and you still choose peace, it reflects everything they're not. Your calm makes their chaos obvious. Your elevation makes their pettiness undeniable. Your lack of bitterness shines a light on their toxicity. And you didn't even have to tell your side of the story for people to start seeing it. They underestimated how loud silence can be when it's coming from someone who should have gone off. They thought withholding your truth would silence your power. But all it did was amplify your presence. You didn't need to set anything on fire. Your peace made the contrast unbearable. It showed who was really wounded and who did the wounding. They weren't afraid of your anger. They were afraid of your growth. Because when you outgrow people without trying to punish them, it forces them to face themselves. And deep down, they knew you leaving them behind with no mess, no drama, no destruction, just grace, was the kind of punishment their ego would never recover from. Number 7. You weren't quiet. They just couldn't weaponize your calm. They told people you were being passive, that you were scared, that you didn't speak up because you had something to hide. But what they couldn't say out loud, what they feared deep down, was the truth. You were calm because you were done. Not weak, not confused, just done. Your stillness wasn't a pause, it was a boundary. It was you saying, without saying, "I no longer engage with chaos disguised as connection." They were used to people reacting, used to the screaming, the defending, the arguments that gave them a platform to twist everything around. But you didn't give them that. You didn't perform. And that made you dangerous. Because when they can't provoke you, they can't control the story. When they can't drag you into the mud, they're left standing in it alone. They couldn't handle your peace because it wasn't performative. It wasn't silence out of fear, it was discipline. It was you standing in the middle of a storm with your spirit unshaken, watching them try to stir drama in a space where you'd already removed your energy. That calm made them paranoid, because the loud ones always assume silence is strategy, and in your case it was. Not to attack, but to protect what you'd built inside. They couldn't weaponize your calm because it didn't come from ego. It came from clarity. You weren't trying to look powerful. You were powerful. And that kind of stillness drives unstable people wild. They start to expose themselves, trying to provoke you. They unravel because they don't understand how someone they tried to break is now so unmoved, so untouchable, so light. They wanted your voice, your reaction, your proof. But all you gave them was your absence, and that was the one thing they had no plan for. Because they weren't prepared for you to heal in plain sight without ever raising your voice. They couldn't twist your calm, so now they're choking on their own noise. Number 8. You didn't just step over the gossip, you made it irrelevant. They thought gossip would ruin you, that their little circle of whispers, half-truths, and outright lies would trap you in a narrative you couldn't escape. But what they didn't count on was your growth being louder than their rumors. You didn't just pretend not to hear them. You walked away from the entire room. You didn't respond because you weren't even in the same frequency anymore. You weren't silent, you were gone. They expected drama. They expected a reaction. That's how gossip survives. Off tension, off defensiveness, off the spectacle of someone trying to clean up a mess they never created. But you didn't play into it. You didn't show up to defend yourself to people who were already invested in misunderstanding you. You left them with their audience and moved on to build something they couldn't even interpret. And the moment you chose to evolve instead of engage, their script started to fall apart. You made their gossip irrelevant, not by denying it, but by growing so far past it that even people who once entertained it began to question their motives. Your transformation made their drama look like noise from a past era. While they were busy hitting repeat, you were out here hitting reset, on your mindset, your space, your purpose. You made them look foolish without ever saying their names, because nothing humbles a liar faster than the person they tried to defame, rising with no bitterness, no baggage, and no breakdown. Just peace, progress, and purpose. You didn't destroy their gossip. You just made it too small to survive in the new world you stepped into. That's what hits hardest. You didn't compete. You outpaced. You didn't fight back. You leveled up. And now they're stuck recycling the same tired drama while your life keeps unfolding in ways their stories can't explain. That's not just winning, that's redefining the game. Number 9. They wanted to paint you as the villain, but you starved their plotline. They came prepared with their script, casting you as the villain before a single scene even started. Their stories were rehearsed and polished, ready to trap you in a role that fit their agenda perfectly. But what they didn't anticipate was your refusal to step onto their stage. You didn't fall for their bait. You didn't react the way they needed you to. And that single act, simply not playing the part, they couldn't handle. By starving their plotline of your involvement, you took away their power to control the narrative. Their carefully woven drama depended on your reaction, your anger, your defense. Without it, their storyline collapsed into nothing more than desperate noise. They were left standing alone, acting out scenes that nobody believed anymore. It was like watching clowns perform a circus act after the audience walked out. The spectacle became meaningless without your participation. Their attempts to villainize you lost all momentum because you refused to validate their version of the truth. You showed them that you're not a character in their story. You're the author of your own. And when the audience realizes the drama was fabricated, the actors are exposed as nothing more than attention seekers, desperate to stay relevant. You didn't just survive their narrative. You dismantled it by withdrawing your energy and your presence. They needed your pain, your reaction, your shame to keep their fiction alive. But by stepping away, you turned their drama into a ghost story, something talked about but never witnessed. Now they perform for empty seats, replaying a script that no longer holds any weight. What stings the most isn't that they tried to make you the villain. It's that you never gave them the chance. You starved their plot, left them with a hollow performance, and walked away unbothered. That's the ultimate defeat, and they're the ones left looking ridiculous in a show nobody asked to see. Number 10. Your indifference made you a mirror to their insecurity. When you stopped reacting, something powerful happened. You stopped feeding their chaos and instead became a mirror reflecting back everything they desperately wanted to hide. Their insecurities, their fears, their deep-rooted wounds, they all showed up in your silence like a spotlight on their own brokenness. But here's the twist. You never had to say a word or throw a punch. Your indifference did the work for you. By not engaging, you denied them the chance to twist your reactions into something ugly. They had no bait, no spark, no fuel to ignite their narratives, so instead they were forced to stare at themselves through the reflection you held up without judgment or retaliation. And mirrors don't lie. They show the cracks, the shadows, the parts people usually bury deep. That reflection is what made them uncomfortable. Not because you did anything to hurt them, but because they saw parts of themselves they never wanted to face, flaws they tried to cover up by projecting them onto you. Your calm became their chaos, your peace their unrest. The harder they tried to pull you down, the more obvious it became that the real battle was inside their own minds. Your indifference wasn't apathy. It was strength disguised as peace. It was a refusal to get dragged into a fight that didn't belong to you. And that refusal made you untouchable, but also unintentionally ruthless. Because sometimes the harshest truth isn't in words, but in silence. And the most cutting weapon isn't revenge, but reflection. You didn't break them with attacks. You broke the illusion by simply not playing their game. You held up the mirror, and in their discomfort, they exposed their own rot. That's the real power of indifference. It's not about not caring. It's about making them confront what they don't want to see without ever uttering a single word. Number 11. You are the receipt they can't shred. You are the living proof they desperately wish didn't exist. No matter how many stories they spin, how many lies they craft to twist the truth, you stand unshaken, a walking contradiction to everything they wanted to see shattered. They can shred papers, erase texts, delete emails, but they can't erase you. Your very existence is the receipt they can't burn. You didn't have to wage wars or shout your truth from rooftops to prove your worth. Your peace, your success, your quiet resilience, all of it speaks louder than any accusation or rumor. Each day you show up whole, stronger, and untouched. You're sending a message they can't drown out. Their efforts to break you failed spectacularly. This receipt isn't a piece of paper or digital proof. It's the life you live, the calm confidence you carry, the progress you make, the joy they thought they stole, but you reclaimed. It's a silent audit that balances their deception with your undeniable truth. And because you didn't waste time defending yourself, you never gave them the energy to rewrite the script. They try to bury the truth under layers of gossip and lies, but receipts don't lie. You can't fold yourself into a neat little story for them to shred. You are the unbreakable evidence that what they tried to destroy only grew stronger. Your presence is a constant reminder that while they wasted energy tearing down, you were busy building up. In the end, the most powerful statement isn't in the noise or the rebuttals. It's in your existence. You are the receipt they desperately want to shred, but no shredder on earth is strong enough to touch the truth of who you are. Number 12. Not caring is how you reclaimed your timeline. While they were caught up in the petty details, spinning their stories and trying to trap you in a moment of pain or reaction, you were doing something far more powerful. You were reclaiming your entire timeline. Not caring isn't just about ignoring the noise. It's about refusing to let anyone else write your story or dictate your future. It's a deliberate choice to move beyond their drama and live on your own terms, creating decades of growth while they're still stuck in the past. Their obsession with the moment, the hurt, the insult, the gossip, is a trap. It keeps them frozen in time, replaying the same scenes, reliving the same conflicts, and dragging others into that stuck place. But your detachment, it's like you invented a time machine. You didn't waste energy rewinding or pausing on their versions of the story. Instead, you fast-forwarded to a place where their noise doesn't exist anymore. By not caring, you weren't surrendering or giving up. You are elevating yourself to a higher plane where their attempts to pull you back are powerless. Their drama is like an old rerun stuck on loop for them, but you've already changed the channel. You've stepped into a future where your peace, your growth, and your success make their petty attempts irrelevant. This isn't just emotional maturity, it's strategic evolution. You took control of your narrative by refusing to participate in their timeline. While they waste time trying to trap you in moments that don't serve you, you're busy building a life that will outlast their stories. You turned detachment into a form of time travel, escaping the past, avoiding their traps, and moving straight into a future they can't touch. They're stuck watching the same episodes of your life they want to rewrite, but you've moved on to new chapters. That's the ultimate power, not just surviving their chaos, but transcending it and owning your timeline like the unstoppable force you truly are. Number 13. You chose evolution over engagement. You had every reason to engage, to fight back, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. The world practically expected it. But you made a different choice. Instead of feeding the fire, you chose evolution. That's not weakness or avoidance, it's a level of power most never reach. Real power isn't about clapping back louder or sharper, it's about transforming the energy meant to drag you down into the fuel that propels you higher. When people curse you, they want to see you crumble or strike back. They want you tangled in the same toxic cycle because that keeps them relevant and in control. But you didn't take the bait. You refused to be a character in their petty stories. Instead, you became the author of your own growth, quietly turning their negativity into lessons, their attacks into motivation, and their doubt into proof of your resilience. Choosing evolution over engagement means you stepped off the battlefield and into a new arena, one where your progress makes their noise meaningless. You didn't waste time explaining yourself or dragging others down to your level. You invested in yourself, and that investment paid off in ways words never could. Now, people watch and wonder, how did you survive their storms without losing yourself? How did you turn their curses into stepping stones? That mystery is your power. It unsettles those who expected drama because it proves there's a strength beyond reaction, a strength that doesn't need validation or revenge. You rewrote the rules by refusing to play by theirs. That choice, choosing growth instead of grudges, transcendence instead of tantrums, is what separates the truly powerful from the rest. You didn't just survive the chaos, you evolved beyond it, leaving everyone else stuck trying to figure out what happened while you quietly conquered your world. Number 14. Your indifference is a language only the spiritually free can speak. Most people react to betrayal and drama with noise, shouting, defending, explaining, trying to prove their worth or innocence. It's the human default to engage, to fight back, to make sure their voice is heard loud and clear. But you? You operate on a different frequency altogether. Your indifference isn't ignorance or weakness. It's a profound language spoken only by those who are spiritually free, those who understand that not every battle is theirs to fight. You didn't care because your spirit was anchored in something far deeper than petty conflicts or fleeting opinions. Your roots run through destiny, purpose, and an unshakable connection to your truth. When distractions and betrayals came, you didn't waste precious energy getting tangled in the noise. That wasn't silence born of fear or confusion, that was sacred detachment. It was a conscious choice to rise above, to protect your energy, and to honor the bigger path laid before you. This kind of indifference isn't empty or hollow. It's rich and alive with meaning. It's a vibration that says, I am beyond this. I am too whole to be broken by your drama. And that vibration echoes louder than any argument or rebuttal ever could. It unsettles those who thrive on chaos because they know they can't reach you there. Your spirit's frequency is set to peace, to growth, to destiny, and that makes you untouchable. When you choose indifference, you're not turning your back on the world, you're embracing a higher way of being. You speak a language of freedom, a vibration that can only be understood by those who've walked the same sacred path. That's why your detachment isn't just a reaction, it's a declaration. You're spiritually free, and nothing in the chaos around you can change that. In a world that constantly demands reaction, where drama is currency and chaos is the loudest voice, choosing not to care is the fiercest act of rebellion. It's not about shutting down or giving up. It's about rising to a plane where petty distractions simply cannot reach you. The chosen ones understand this deeply. Indifference isn't apathy, but a sacred power. It's the refusal to let others write your story or define your worth. It's the decision to step out of the noise and into a space where your peace is invincible, your growth unstoppable, and your future untouchable. This path isn't easy. It requires a strength that goes beyond muscle or mind, an inner fortress built from the raw material of experience, resilience, and unwavering belief in something greater than the drama around you. When you walk this path, you become a living contradiction to every expectation placed on you. They want you angry, reactive, or broken. But instead, you're calm, focused, and unshakable. You don't just survive their attempts to drag you down. You rise above them with a grace that makes their attacks irrelevant. Your indifference is not a void. It is a force field. It reflects their insecurities back to them, exposes the cracks in their armor, and starves their narratives of the fuel they crave. By choosing evolution over engagement, you rewrite the rules of the game entirely. You refuse to be a character in their play and instead become the author of your destiny. This power, this sacred detachment, is the ultimate form of victory, a victory so profound that it dismantles drama without a single word or retaliation. So keep walking that higher path. Keep stepping over the gossip that tries to trip you up. Because in not caring, you reclaim your timeline, your energy, and your peace. You become the unbreakable proof that true strength isn't measured by how loudly you fight back, but by how gracefully you rise above. That is the legacy of the chosen ones, the unstoppable force of indifference turned into power, a silent storm that changes everything without anyone seeing it coming. This is your victory. This is your truth. Own it. If this message spoke to you, if it lit a fire or brought clarity to your journey, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and join the community where we rise above the noise together. Like this video to show that you're committed to growth. Drop a comment below, share your story, your thoughts, or simply let us know how you're stepping over the gossip in your life. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it too. The more we lift each other up, the stronger we become. Stay powerful, stay unstoppable, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless.